Jordan Moore, Shaun Cody, Max Browne, and Keely Eure joins us now. Our final football roundtable of the fall semester. We live in a college world around here. We'll be back in the spring. We'll do a handful of shows around spring football, but we have a lot of things coming up, but let's just take a quick look back. We talked about it some with Mike Bowen, but what were you guys' takeaways from Saturday night? You know, I even said earlier to Mike, these things are rare, maybe not more special, but more rare than winning national championships around here. The team has 11 national championships, and that was the 8th Heisman won, 7th officially, but pretty rare thing. We are literally doing this show live from a building where the trophies are displayed in the lobby. They stand the test of time. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's funny because I missed last week's show because I was heartbroken from the Utah loss and I couldn't make it. And, look who's here. We win the Heisman and look who shows up. You know what I mean? So, I've been talking to a lot of people in my area about USC, and I can just sense the interest of USC football, and that has a lot to do not just the season, but a thing like a nationally exposed player on your team is receiving the best award in the country. I mean, that's just huge for this program, and you can see just by looking at Mike and sensing him how happy he is about it. Because just the exposure about even just non-football fans know that Caleb Williams, a USC football player, won an award. It's just you can't say how important it is to the program, to everything, and the national exposure. And I think it's been an awesome couple of days. I know for Caleb, but every Trojan fan out there is ecstatic.
It's wild looking back. We had that first interview with Mike Bowen when he first got hired 2 years ago, and we were literally in this position right here, us three, to then now fast forward, and he's getting thanked on national television for the impact that he's made. And, he deserves a ton of credit for why things are here, but and Caleb does as well. I think, to me, and Jordan, you'll be able to speak to this better, and Shaun, you as well, but, I imagine when Carson won his Heisman that kind of kicked things off for that era of what was to come for Pete Carroll. It feels like there could be something similar of Caleb wins it, and we feel really good about the next 5 years ahead. It's he sparked it, and he's balled out all year long.
It's honestly so surreal, and I know we've talked about this at every step of the way this season, but if you had written down, what's best case scenario for Lincoln Riley in year one, I don't think anyone we couldn't really predict this, and that's the crazy part. But it's just incredible to see what Caleb Williams has done, and I always remind people he's 20, he's a sophomore because he
has to come back.
Yes, he does. He's forced to now, but he just carries himself in such a way that is just so incredible, and I think his Heisman speech really highlighted that.
Well, that's my takeaway. The public speaking, guys. I don't care how old you are. Nobody wants to give that speech. That's what people are most afraid of. And he's so comfortable up there at the age of 20. It's remarkable.
And that's what we've seen when he's sitting in this chair right here. Yeah. No, and to Keely's point, if you would have said, he's going to win the Heisman.
If you could do it on this show, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah, this is the biggest stage of everything.
Exactly.
Right here.
That's why we give it to him.
But no, to Keely's point of, if you would have said this is how the season was going to play out back in August, we would have laughed. If you said, he's got another Heisman Trophy
we would have been
winner,
called ridiculous homers if we said that loud.
Yeah. Exactly. And Lincoln did say in his opening press conference, we're not going to take year one as an excuse. And everyone was like, oh, that's great. Glad he's heading in the game.
You haven't seen what we've seen the past 4 months.
Yeah. But he really meant it. And to see it is just wild.
And that's what stood out to me, too, is that there was an air of disappointment in the speech with the job's not finished. We didn't get our goal done. I'm jealous of you guys sitting there going to the college football playoff. We're sitting at home going, yeah, what a year. And he's up there going, it was all right. I won the Heisman, but I'm not in the CFP. That's greatness, I guess, that level of standard for yourself.
And that's what you pull out of the whole thing, I think, is the job is not done kind of a scenario. You can feel that. It's palpable that he's not – he was excited and thrilled. I'm sure he was happy to be there, but he also knows there's more meat on the bone. And as a fan, you just love that. You love that he's just going to keep firing after, because that really what it all comes down to. It's a great award for himself, but he knows that next level, if I can carry a team to that would be the next level.
But it really goes back to that first Utah loss. playoffs where the only thing he could really say was, I really hate losing.
Yeah.
And that's just been the theme for him this whole season, and I'm guessing his whole career.
Obviously the big date to come to cap things off with Tulane in the Cotton Bowl on January 2. In a sec, Shaun's going to give us a breakdown of their 3 deep. He goes one deeper. It goes on the 3 deep there. That's a day game on January 2. We're going to have to wake up bright and early for that one, guys. But there's a big date in between, Keely, and
Yes.
just in your new role, we can't necessarily talk about specific players, but there is early signing day coming up, which is really signing day, and now transfer portal season
Palooza.
as well. Do you get a sense of, obviously last year they were so late when they took over, they took just a few sort of blue chip freshmen and then went all transfers. Do you get a sense of where that balance is at and how they're going to approach it? Because in a way, they're now getting a ton of credit for stumbling into a new formula, which is just build your team with transfers.
Yeah, the word the coaching staff likes to use, both Lincoln Riley and defensive coordinator Alex Grinch, is active. We're going to be active in the portal. And that's something that Lincoln said like a month ago when he was asked about it. He said, not as active as last time. And I think that's because they were able to put in a foundation last season. But I definitely think that they will try and get some depth, because we saw those issues pop its head during the season. But, I think that cornerback is something where they're going to have to look at, just because that's not really a production. They didn't get enough production this season, and also defensive line. Yeah, they lose Mackay, which I always say it, but I wish we could see another season of Mackay. He really did well. But defensive line, the comp I always make is, Stanley Tofu came in as a linebacker and he was playing as a down lineman. Like, that's not something you want for your defense. So I think they're gonna have to be active, like they said, but now they have a proof of product, and that's something it's much different to sell people on an idea than it is, look, we almost went to the CFP year 1. So I think that's going to help and help them be active, if you will.
Keely brought up a couple position groups, guys, which was a question I was going to ask. Where do you think they need to address? Give me the position group or groups that you think they need to address the most as you look at this offseason.
Yeah, off the top of my mind, Rodney said is offensive line. I think it's been a luxury that we've talked about it a couple of times, of glossed over, of how beneficial it was for Lincoln to inherit a lot of offensive linemen that have played a lot of football. And for this team to take the next step, you need to be really good at the offensive line position. They were, I would say, right there, hanging around right there this season, but you can't drop off if you're going to compete for national titles. And then I echo the defensive line part, and then depth at that linebacker position. I think when we saw injuries come up, yes, you have your one guy and your two, like 1A, 1B, but where are you after that? That's a big deal as well.
And just to give people a sense of the roster, Nealon, Voorhees, Haskins, all gone from the offensive line room. In the linebacker group, you should have Shane Lee and Eric Gentry back. Go forth. No, is it not sure about Shane Lee? Did he run out on senior day?
He did.
He did run out on senior day.
Yes.
Okay, that's
so,
my
and
mistake.
That's something
I thought
where
he
I'm
didn't.
circling that
I think he has eligibility if he wants it.
He does.
Double dip.
When I hosted for you, I actually accidentally put him on the spot and asked him what he was going to do, and he said he didn't know yet, but he did later that week come out.
Why accidentally? Just grill the people.
I mean,
just grill them.
Well, yeah, but I just felt bad because put him on the spot.
I hate that question too for these kids, because they're not. They shouldn't have to answer it at that point. But yeah, at some point he has to figure that out. And then you guys talk about D-line. If Thule goes, that is a massive hole. And
Nick
he's got
gone.
Nick Figueroa's gone. Peely's gone. They have some vets there as well. But
exciting to get Romello Hyde back. I think giving him another opportunity to look at him. Corey Foreman coming on late in the year, starting to make some production. So some positive signs there, but still a lot of pieces to fill on that defensive side of the ball still.
It'll be very interesting to see how active Caleb Williams is too, because we had never seen a coach in Lincoln Riley raid the portal like we did last year. We've also never seen a Heisman Trophy winner return to school, and potentially he could, I don't know exactly the tampering dynamics, but like he could recruit and say, hey, let me go fill a roster and let me go raid the portal myself and be that recruiting guy. Usually you can't do that, because in 5 years ago, guys had to sit out and things of that nature. So you have the opportunity to be much more active if you're Caleb.
And that's what's interesting, particularly on the offensive side, is you do lose a Jordan Addison. So you go, there is a big spot open to get to play receiver for the Heisman Trophy winner and the Kingmaker head coach. NIL aside and all these other things that go into these decisions, that is, hey, you want to be a first-round draft pick? That's a pretty good spot to fill, especially if what you're lacking is maybe a little exposure, a word used very early in the show.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb's going to be, he's the piece right now. He's got to be the guy who makes it happen for this whole thing. And the coach, I'm sure Coach Riley knows that, and he's going to be able to talk to these guys. It's going to be a fun thing to watch. And I think as a Trojan fan, this whole show's kind of been about the interest. And it's, I think if you're not a Trojan fan, you're not following right now, your head's in the wrong game.
For sure. And we still have one more game to go. USC versus Tulane, the Cotton Bowl Classic. 10 a.m. Pacific time on January 2nd. We'll go on at 8 a.m. Pacific time, Sean. We'll
you can't complain about late kickoffs.
No, I'm
also,
not complaining.
You're saying
I'm not
in
complaining.
general,
It's
as
a little
Trojan
breakfast
fan,
show. Just
can't
enjoy
have
your
it both
breakfast
ways.
while listening to the Trojan Tailgate Show. Hey, we still have one more segment of Trojans Live next. Let's talk about journeys. The journey we've gone on with the over-under segment, I think, is really
Are we
we've
doing
really
one,
learned.
Jordan?
Here it
Love
is.
this
The
segment.
over-under is presented by Pechanga Resort Casino, proud partner of USC Athletics. Over under 1.5 Heismans for Caleb Williams in his college career.
Ooh.
That's hard, man.
I even heard an ooh from the crowd. That's how good that over under was. Save the best for
That was a
last.
bang,
Let's
Jordan.
go.
That's a tough one, man.
I only ask the tough ones.
It hasn't
If
been.
you say
it hasn't
under
happened,
here, you
right?
just sound like a square.
Of course it's happened. Archie
square?
Griffin one
Okay.
time.
All right. Well, of
Like,
course.
yeah.
Got it.
Archie Griffin, for those that lack history like Sean, is
Yes.
the only person ever to win the Heisman twice.
It's just so difficult, man. I mean, every year is such a dynamic thing. You got it can only. It's viewed in a vacuum. Those years, they're just kind of there, and then they happen. It's just hard to reproduce those kind of things. It's going to be a totally different team. There's going to be guys involved. You're going to be attacking differently. On the same token, it's hard to say that with Lincoln Riley and what he does with quarterbacks and how he helps them produce and puts them in the right scenarios. So I'm gonna go under.
You're going under.
I'm going under.
Sean's a hater, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go over. Like, why not?
Why not?
But no, when you look at what Lincoln's done, 6 years as a head coach and 3 Heisman Trophy winners, that's
Remarkable.
bonkers.
Insane.
And a finalist also. Jalen Hurts was a finalist that didn't win. So 4 finalists.
Yeah, and Caleb's temperament, he's low key, he's chill. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to have any sort of like slump or fall down or anything like that.
The attention's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah,
It is, I think that is something that could be said.
It's a lot like Liner No 5, and,
Remember
and
security
he struggled with
guards
it.
following Matt and Reggie, and it was just bananas.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he wants to go back to the CFP, and I feel like if you're in that conversation of the CFP, you're also in the Heisman conversation, and I want to go to New York, so I'll say over.
Sounds good to me. Hey, I want to thank, I always try to thank everybody, and we always run out of time, but as our last show, let me get everyone's name in here. I want to thank Rick Cutler and Ben Conroy. They're our engineers here live that get us on the air. Art Webb back at the studio, and anyone else back at KBC hooking us up there. Gia Lares, our producer booker. Katie Ryan as well, who helps book us. All our stream crew here, Rich Rodriguez's crew, Jalen Conway, Evan Feinstein, and Trip Carrington has been here as well. Chase Dunlew, our guy who's taking care of us here, and the guy who's been making us look good, this incredible new set. Thank you to Chris Ernst.
He's tearing up like
does our
Lincoln. Look at
Trojan
him.
Tailgate show. Chris making us look good. So I appreciate everyone. Sean, now tell us everything about Tulane. You have 10 seconds.
First, we're going to start with the quarterback from Tulane. He was a No, I don't
How's their
know.
specialists?
I have no idea.
Running back.
I won't nail to a week before, guys, so then I'll be ready.
You just said running back.
I did.
As in they have a
I
good
was
one.
feeding him some info.
they gave Lincoln all he could handle last year when he was head coach of Oklahoma. Almost pulled the upset.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen this time around. Stay
What a
tuned.
note to
January
end
2,
on.
we'll be back with you. And then next spring, we will be back with more Trojans Live. Thank you, everyone, for Keely Eure, Max Browne, Shaun Cody. I am Jordan Moore. Have a happy holidays and fight on.